Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Interbanks Fishing Report with Tar-Pam Guide Service, Captain Richard Andrews. How you doing, Captain Richard?
I'm doing great, Marvin. How about yourself?
Just trying to stay out of trouble. It's funny, we were talking before we started recording, and I was thinking that maybe since you were east, you weren't going to get any of this weather out of this system, this hurricane that's kind of picking up steam down in Florida, but it sounds like it's going to kind of mess things up for you a little bit.
Yeah, we'll probably be off the water for a couple of days. Usually any low pressure system or any mild tropical system will bring, we're not so concerned about the precipitation, but the wind. And so it'll be blowing 20 to 30 knots down in open water, which is it's certainly fishable, but it makes things more challenging than I would like.
And how long, once the low pressure system moves out, does it take for things to kind of settle down and for the turbidity to drop out of the water?
Well, you can get right back to fishing, after the wind dies out. But you'll certainly get some wind ahead of something like this, and then you'll get a little bit of wind on the backside as well.
Got it. And so we were also talking before we started recording that, the stripers have finally dropped out of the river system and are kind of doing their summer thing. And, what else are you seeing on the Sound?
Well, we certainly have the stripers as an option. They tend to congregate around the docks in the river, the estuarine portion of the river in the summertime. They like that cool temperatures under the docks. They'll basically live there in the summer. And the fishing can be quite good around the piers, in the mornings on top water and in the evenings, late afternoons. But we also catch the speckled trout and redfish just like we have been.
Gotcha. So you're basically fishing those redfish up on the stumps?
Yeah, the stumpy shorelines along the river, wherever you can find concentrations of bait, whether it's menhaden or shrimp. There's certainly good places to look. There's also a lot of shrimp coming out of the creeks right now, so you can get up in the creeks and find a few scatterfish feeding on shrimp. The specks are kind of, they're in a lot of the same places they have been. There's a lot more fish in deeper water now, so we're kind of entering the dog days of summer where the water temperature's staying up in the 80s. It's hovering about 80 to 83 degrees most days, which is actually a little on the cooler side for what we're used to in July. A lot of times in July, it'll get up to 85, 88 degrees. We've even seen water temperatures in the 90s before, which is crazy. But the specks like that cooler, better oxygenated water out in the Sound. It's a little deeper, so you can catch them on the shorelines early and late, but a lot of times they'll pull out of the shallow water and get out there deeper where we're catching them in, anywhere from 7 to 15, 16 feet of water.
Gotcha.
That's fairly deep for the Sound.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that sounds like that's way out that kind of second shelf area.
Yeah, it is. It's,
yeah.
The Pamlico Sound is so shallow overall. But yeah, that's kind of been what's going on. Still catching them on the fly, catching them on conventional gear. Actually doing some live baiting some days, and that's fun as well. I like to mix it up. I don't like to stick to one thing. I like to. Depends on what my clients want to do, but we try to be very versatile.
Gotcha. And so for the speckled trout, I assume, what are you fishing, clousers and maybe like game changers and flies like that on like sinking lines and intermediate lines?
Yeah, sinking, sink tips, sometimes intermediate in shallow water. Sometimes we're using full sinking lines depending on the depth we're fishing. If we're fishing a little deeper, and they're willing to take them.
Yeah, and I think the last time we talked to when you were fishing for the redfish up on the stumps, you really could use a floating line or maybe an intermediate, and we're using some of those kind of, I guess, neutrally buoyant bait fish patterns.
Yeah, you don't want too heavy to fly. I mean, just something that can get just barely below the surface, because we're only fishing about 2 feet of water a lot of times.
Gotcha.
And so it doesn't take much. Just get something in there that can send out a little bit of vibration. They know it's there. And it's amazing how, even though the water's not clear a lot of days, they know what's in their domain. If you put it in there near them, they'll come to it.
Yeah. And so, we've been talking, last 2 or 3 times, we've chatted about how the shrimp are growing really quickly this time of year. And you're saying they've started to move down the creeks and into the estuaries. What's your favorite crab pattern to target speckled trout and redfish in close to shore?
Well, we use a lot of gurglers. they tend to work really well. And just any topwater poppers when they're on shrimp, it doesn't have to look like a shrimp. They respond really well to topwater baits when they're eating shrimp, because the shrimp are up on top, skipping across the top. I've had some of my best topwater fishing when they're feeding on shrimp.
Got it. And, folks, we love questions at the Articulate Fly. You can email them to us or send them to us on our Facebook or Instagram page. And if we use your question, I'll send you some Articulate Fly swag, and you'll get into a drawing for a half-day charter with Richard at the end of the season. And, Richard, before I let you hop, why don't you let folks know where they can find you so they can book you and fish with you?
Well, the best source of information on what we offer is on our website at www.tarpamguide.com, and everything we do is there. And feel free to read and peruse our site, and hopefully you won't fall asleep. But if something is interesting to you, don't hesitate to give us a call or send us an email.
Yeah, and if you want to chase those big drum, you probably better hurry up, right?
Yeah, we're pretty booked up for that, but I have other guys that can get you out. So we have 3 or 4 people that help us out with overflow, and if you want to get on the water, I can certainly make it happen.
There you go. Well, listen, folks, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Richard.
Tight lines, Marvin.